Yo, 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 what's good? What's good? It's Stormy B Man, and I am back. Welcoming you to Kung Fu Film Focus for this Thursday, March 9th, 2023. And we've got another Kung Fu adventure to review for you this evening. We're going to take it back to the Library of Shaw Brothers. Yes, a little film from 1971 directed by Chong Che, famed legendary director from the Shaw Studios and under the genre of martial art films. This one is The New One-Armed Swordsman, aka Triple Irons. Yeah. As we talk about this one this evening, it's one of the films that, for the time that it was made, it was a thrilling fight. Once again, a wuxia epic, and wuxia meaning sword play, where we got a chance to see veteran actor with Shaw Studios, David Chong, take the lead in this one. Yeah, welcome everybody out there. Hope that everybody's having a wonderful day as we get ready to get into another Kung Fu Film Focus. One of the things about the Kung Fu film genre, there were so many films that came out in the early 70s that it just seemed to be a thing where if you were new to the genre, like most Americans were, because there was a windfall of films that came in to the US during that time, you didn't know what was the difference between a good quality kung fu martial art film or one that was not so good. But one of the things that was noted about the Shaw Studio is the fact that the Shaw Studio always had outstanding sets and costumes for their epics. And people noticed that right away. And it sort of set the difference between what you would see in most kung fu films as opposed to everything else that was coming through the market. Sword epics and the fact that some of these films were bashers, and the bashers were typically these guys that would be fighting fist to fist and foot to fist action, because a lot of the swordplay films go all the way back until the turn of the century. But the bashers, the actual martial art hand-to-hand combat films, came toward the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah. So, as you come into the building, please, like I said, smash that like button. One second. Got a text message here. Yeah. So, as I was saying, these films often generated a lot of interest from the audience. Many people would come to the cinema and enjoy what was no longer westerns, cowboy films, gangster movies with the pistols. You had kung fu, sword activity, hand-to-hand combat. Some people called it judo and karate, but we would later learn through due diligence from legendary film star Bruce Lee, it was called kung fu. Yeah. So, now, this film, as I said, was directed by legendary director Chong Che. And he had a library of films. And he was the type of person, Chong Che, who was a great calligraphy man. And when he made films for Shaw Brothers, he found a way to add the embellishment of calligraphy to the action. Now, I know some people may wonder, like, well, what do you mean by that? But it was just the way that he would paint the action for the audience. Chong Che was the type of director. Okay, one second. Got another text here. Okay, we got a super chat out there from Ron Hall. He says, lots of great bashers, godfathers of Hong Kong, Chinese mechanic, and others. Salute to you, Ron Hall. Appreciate your donation to the show and the channel. And welcome this evening. Yeah, getting back to Chong Che, who was born in 1923 and passed away in 2002. This gentleman here, he had an abundance of films that he directed. And I'll tell you something, 93 films he directed. He produced 10, executive produced 2. He wrote 75. He acted in 2. And Chong Che influenced a whirlwind of directors. Guys like Wu Ma, John Woo, David Chang, Lau Ka Wang, and so many others. But it was his action. He believed in heroic bloodshed films. And that's what the One-Armed Swordsman came to be. Another heroic bloodshed film, also exemplifying brotherhood, as David Chang was joined by a cast that he was most familiar with. Here, Chang, David, appeared in this film along with actress Li Ching, who was the female love interest for him in this film, and also Tai Lung, which we know that he and Tai Lung teamed up for numerous films with the Shaw Brothers. The action in this film was directed by, choreography, sword play action, and martial action directed by Tong Gai, who was a veteran actor as well as choreographer with Shaw Studios. In fact, he choreographed he was like their in-house choreographer for their films. And he was assisted by the young, at the time, Lau Ka-ling. And Lau brought some martial experience, being someone who was a descendant of Wong Fei Hong's school of martial arts. His dad was taught directly by Lam Sao Wing, who is also known in the films as Butcher Wing, played in many films by Sammo Hung. But he was a real martial artist, a lineal student of the great Wong Fei Hong. So there was a lot of work going on around this film. The villain of the film was veteran actor Ku Feng, who was the owner of the Triple Irons in this film. The Triple Irons turned out to be a set of 3-section staff that he wielded. And he had a special technique with this 3-section staff that was a almost unbeatable kill stroke, because the 3-section staff would separate in the center and he could use it like 2 different devices. But it was a secret, and he would only do it at moments where he could catch an opponent off guard. So this would go on to be a situation in this film where the lead hero, Lei Li, played by David Chang, would find himself facing off against Ku Feng in the third act of the film. Also, veteran Chun Sing is in this film, playing one of the villains. He's a familiar face that you would see go on to make his own films in Taiwan and become a box office star in his own right, later teaming up with the likes of Jimmy Wang Yu and Chang Yi. So a lot of faces in this film and names who were to be associated with a number of classics throughout the years. This is, you know, one of the things I love about the martial art films was some of these guys, they would play roles that in this film, the role might be very small. It might even be a little bit of a cameo, like the guy gets killed. And then in the next film, he'll have a fleshed out role and he's like a major player. That's one of the things that they did with the Shaw Studios. If Run Run Shaw had you signed to a contract and they wanted to put you in a film, you really didn't have any say so. They would put you in there. And of course, the big stars would be saved for larger roles, and their roles would be more spread out. They would churn out a certain number of films a year, and they would put their major stars in at least 3 to 4 productions a year. That's how they would do things. Shaw Studio was all ran like a well-oiled machine at the time. Yeah. So let me go to the chat for a moment and acknowledge some of the people that have come into the building. I don't want to ignore anybody. We talking kung fu this evening, so bear with us. This is what we do here. This is Kung Fu Film Focus. Jerome Truitt was in the building first. He says, good evening. What's good with you, Jerome? Soul Power, AK Gamed Up Kennels in the building. Drew Titan, my man, is out there saying, yes, sir. William Old School is out there saying, Stormy B Man, salute my brother. And y'all smash the like button, people, when entering the building. Peace. Yes, sir. Pull Counter Boxing is out there. And who else we got? I thought I saw another name coming in. Of course, Ron Hall with the super chat. We appreciated that. Mad Merrill is out there saying, didn't a woman cut off his arm? It's been long since I saw this movie. I'll get back to that in a moment. Mad Merrill. Champion Heart is in the building saying, salute to Sensei Stormy B Man and my brothers in the chat. Salute to you as well. And William says, I used to have a 3-section staff and got rid of it after I split my head and almost knocked myself out. Yeah, you got to know what you're doing, huh? I had a 3-section staff that I made, and I was pretty good with that bad boy too. I was very, very talented in martial arts when I was a young man growing up. I guess the movie magic wore off on me because I was one of those guys who could emulate what I saw on the screen very well. As far as the techniques and execution of kicks and stuff like that, the one thing I could never get into was tumbling, the somersaults, gymnastics. I couldn't get into that. I just didn't have that dexterity to do the flips and stuff, but I could hold my own with punches and kicks, things of that nature. So Antonio MMA is in the building. What's good with you, man? The Village Brother, I see you out there. Yeah. But getting back to the new one-armed swordsman. The one thing to take note of about this particular film, it is not to be confused with the original one-armed swordsman made by Jimmy Wong Yu. Now, the original one-armed swordsman also had a sequel called The Return of the One-Armed Swordsman, and the original was from 1967. And Jimmy Wong Yu starred in that film, was a big-time star. It made $1 million at the Hong Kong box office back in that day, and that propelled Jimmy Wong Yu to superstardom. It was the film that really did it for him, but there was a fallout between he and the Shaw Brothers studio, and he ended up leaving the Shaw studio. But part of the deal, because he broke his contract with the Shaws, he could not film a film in Hong Kong with their studio or any other Hong Kong studio. So he went to Taiwan and made films in Taiwan. He would still make stopovers in Hong Kong just to be defiant, but on the court rulings, he was not supposed to make films in Hong Kong after that. So, but the new one-armed swordsman stars David Chang. Let me acknowledge this super chat we got here. We got Lamont Griffin out there in the super chat. He says, for my tardiness, Sensei, kids soccer practice ran long. Salute to you in the chat, family. I appreciate you, Lamont Griffin, and thank you again for your super chat donation, brother. And welcome to the show. The new one-armed swordsman starring David Chang was a vehicle created because the original 2 films with Jimmy Wong Yu were so popular. But David Chang is not playing the same character. His character is called Lei Li, and he's of the Han Dynasty. He ends up befriending a character called Fang Zhengli, played by Tai Lung, and that character and he become friends after Li Qing, who plays Bai Zhao, is threatened by bandits. They threaten to kidnap her, and Tai Lung's character Fang sees this and he intercepts and saves her from the bandits. The bandits come from a place called Tiger Mansion, and the leader of Tiger Mansion is a character called Jin Fing, and the leader, he sees that his outlaws go out and they grape and pillage the areas, right? And so this is what they do. They're bandits, so they take advantage of the poor and the weak and stuff of that nature. Now, the film opens with Lei Li, played by David Chang, being a upright swordsman with a high ego, and he's challenged to a duel by a different set of bandits who have hired Ku Feng, who is a murderous character by the name of Long Yizi, and that's the character with the triple irons, right? They hire Ku Feng to take out Lei Li. They have a duel, and Lei Li is defeated by the triple irons. And as part of their gamble on one another in battle, Lei Li said, if I lose to you, I'll cut off my right arm. Well, he loses the duel due to Ku Feng cheating, and the film picks up from there because as a honorable swordsman, David Chang cuts off his own arm, to which Ku Feng enjoys this moment and makes certain that the forest that they fight in keeps David Chang's severed right arm attached to a tree. And he says, let this be a reminder for any of these young swordsmen who try to come in and challenge me or whatever. In other words, he's trying to teach the young upcoming swordsmen a lesson. But it turned out that it was simply a situation where Lei Li was tricked into this situation. And Lei Li had no knowledge of this, but he goes into seclusion. He ends up as a waiter at an old, you call it tea house. And there he's looked upon and frowned upon as a cripple. And people don't know that he was once the great swordsman Lei Li. He's hiding out. But Li Qing, who befriends him there at the tea house, she kind of likes the guy. He turns her away. He's a brooding sort and all of this. He doesn't want her romantic advances or don't want to be her friend and all of that, because he's mad because he had to cut his arm off. You dig? So he was pissed off, huh? But when he finds out that Tai Lung saved her when the bandits was trying to kidnap her, because Tai Lung stops by the tea house and she tells Lei Li, this guy saved me or whatever. Well, they become best friends. Now, Lei Li shows more affection for Tai Lung than he does Li Qing, which is interesting, a real interesting dynamic, because there were always rumors about Chang Che putting homoerotic undertones to his heroic characters, the males in his films. And many years later, people thought about that and look back upon it and be like, hey, wait a minute. But back then when it was happening, it was just taken as, you know, heroic brothers, which it could still be interpreted as. But you know, when you leave a crack for something like that to creep in, that's where people's heads go. You know what I'm saying? 704 Joe, what's good with you? I see you out there, bro. Yeah, so Lei Li and Tai Lung, they become good buddies. And Li Qing is like, what about me? You know, and he's like, oh, you know, I still got feelings for you, you know. He's like, but he was just playing hard to get, I guess. But Tai Lung's character is passing through because he's going to Tiger Mansion. And he's going to Tiger Mansion because he's a heroic swordsman who has been asked to come to a meeting of swordsmen. And so when he does that, he's going to Tiger Mansion. He doesn't realize he's being brought there because he's one of the young up and coming swordsmen like Lei Li was. And they're trying to set him up too. So they bring Ku Feng in to meet with him. Oh yeah, the backstabbing and double crossing of kung fu movies is alive, thriving, and well in this Swordsman epic right here, the new one-armed swordsman. I'm telling you, man, it is something else. We got Big Dog Willie out there in that super chat. He says Khan is one of the greatest swordsmen who ever lived. Big Dog Willie, you hadn't been around to Stormy's chat in a while I'm live, so I had something specially for you, man. I had this made specially for you because I knew you would come sniffing around here with your Khan fables, huh? So check it out, Big Dog Willie. Keep your eyes on the screen for a moment. Just keep your eyes out there. I knew you would be coming around, so I had something special for Big Dog Willie, huh? Yeah, thank you, Big Dog Willie, for showing up. I've been having that one cooling on ice for you for a minute now. Yeah. You know, Stormy be ready, man. I tell you guys, don't ever think you can come to class around here and think I don't know what's going on, huh? Stormy be having it all together, man. Y'all gonna learn, huh? Y'all gonna learn. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh man, salute to Drew Titan out there in the super chat with the laughing emojis. Yeah, hey Drew, I've been waiting to get that one off on Big Dog Willie for a minute. I'm like, yeah, I'm just waiting, huh? You know how you get your new pistol and you be ready to fire it off. You be like, yeah, baby, I can't wait to unload this clip. Yeah, salute to you, man. But let me get back to this. Let me get back to this movie, man. Anyway, so Tai Lung is gonna go to Tiger Mansion, but Ku Feng is waiting there. They done hired Ku Feng to handle Tai Lung because he has these double swords that he keeps wrapped up in this, like, I don't know, it's not a towel, but it's some kind of leather wrapping. And he tosses it in the air and the two swords come out. He catch them and he can fight very well with his double swords. But they bring him over to Tiger Mansion, which they have to cross this long bridge. And if you watch Shaw Brothers films, throughout their whole time of making films, outdoor scenes shot near this bridge, it's a familiar bridge, huh? And it leads to the Tiger Mansion. You got to cross this bridge and all these soldiers. Well, Tai Lung has to go across the bridge and he enters Tiger Mansion with the meeting of all these martial minds, right? And so he arrives there and it turns out that when he comes in, they're having a discussion on the bandits. And they introduce Ku Feng as a mediator. And he tells Tai Lung, he was like, the Tiger Mansion men are telling me that you're the one that's the real villain out here. And Tai Lung is like, oh, I see what y'all trying to do. Y'all trying to make me take the fall for these guys. Y'all done all band together up in here against me. He was like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm out of here. And he tries to leave. And they was like, not so fast. Since you're a great swordsman, let's see what can happen if you take on these men here and everything. And he was like, oh, this is what y'all trying to get me, huh? So he ends up battling these guys. And due to the nefarious plots of Ku Feng, again, who attacks him with his triple irons, and Tai Lung, who has a double sword. Lei Li used one sword, right? But Tai Lung had a double sword. And even with his double swords, he could not defeat Ku Feng. But he tells him after he's mortally injured, he says, if I had 3 swords, I could foil your triple irons. And Ku Feng smugly says, but don't you only have 2 arms? He was like, how could you possibly defeat me with 3 swords and you only have 2 arms? And so he tells the Tiger Mansion guys, I'm done with him. He's been defeated. You can do as you will. He's been hurt real bad, so it won't take much to take him out. And then they killed Tai Lung, man. And I ain't gonna tell you no more about that part of the plot, but that's crazy because they killed a good dude, a righteous, upstanding dude. And this damn Ku Feng, man, the owner of the triple irons, the dude is a wretch. I'm telling you, man, he needs his own comeuppance in this film. And he gets it too. I ain't gonna tell you how. But you gotta check the movie out for yourself. But let's get back into some of these people that were in the movies, man. Tai Lung and David Chang played together in numerous Shaw Brothers films, but they didn't like each other off screen. Believe it or not, for as great chemistry that they had on screen, they did not really get along off screen. And sometimes that's how it is. You know, some of the most talented people who don't really care. You've had players on professional sporting teams that didn't care for each other, and then they played well together doing their jobs, but when that time was over with, they had to go. They had to leave it alone, huh? And that was the case between these 2 guys, David Chang and Tai Lung. Yeah. I see Willie Lowe has popped into the building. What's good with you, Willie? Let me help you out there, Willie, with the modding. Mod Willie Lowe up there. He says, salute, Stormy. I was so pissed. The new movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once. Lady in that movie, I like her from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But they had some weird... Listen, Willie Lowe, that's why you don't run out there and expose your eyeballs to everything. You see, Stormy don't watch that kind of foolishness. Michelle Yeoh is now 1,000 years old. And for 1,000, she looks okay, but she don't look like she looked in Super Cop, huh? She don't look like that no more. Or Tomorrow Never Dies, whichever that was. She was in there with Pierce Brosnan, this James Bond flick. She's too old, don't need to be running around, huh? Her crouch has lost its dragon. You understand? So you get what you get when you're out there messing around with that stuff. Now, if you come back here with Stormy and we go over some of these old kung fu flicks like I'm doing tonight, Willie Lowe, you'll learn a few things, huh? Always dial it back, huh? Because that stuff they doing today, hey, man, look, you got fighters out there carrying purses. That's all I'm going to say, huh? That's all I'm going to say right now. Yeah. But anyway, back to what we're talking about here. Picasso, I see you out there, bro. I see you. I see you out there. But, yeah, Tai Lung and David Chang did not get along, but they made some of the great films together, man. And Chang Che was a director who knew how to pair these guys up. And one of the side notes to these two gentlemen, the reason that they got to be big stars after Jimmy Wong Yu left, the studio decided to go with multiple people for the studio repping instead of having one guy, because one guy can kind of ruin it for everybody. And that's how they looked at Jimmy Wong Yu when he made the One-Armed Swordsman, the original film in '67, and it broke $1 million at the box office. His head swelled up 5 times its normal size, and he thought he was king, you know what, after that. But Run Run was like, nope, we ain't having it. Bye-bye. Kicked him out of Hong Kong. So with Tai Lung and David Chang, later to be joined by the likes of Chen Kwai Tai, Chi Kwon Chung, Alexander Fuxing, and later even still the Venom Mob, What happened there was they realized having an ensemble of actors where they could spread that fame around. You didn't have one big cat who could command all of the box office, who could command all of the dollars, who could command all of the attention. So Run Run Shaw was a very smart and shrewd businessman, big time. And he did this knowing these things, and he would definitely benefit from having a multitude of actors and actresses that would take his studio into the future. Let's see, Willie Lowe says, you're right, brother, true. And I didn't even finish the movie because I couldn't get with that. I'm going to take you up on that, brother. And thanks for the wrench. Oh, you're welcome, bro. You welcome. You family, man. And like I said, man, pay attention to these kung fu flicks I'll be talking about, man. I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed by any of them that I recommend. Guaranteed. And if you want to go through my page and go back through my library, Kung Fu Film Focuses, you can pull that up on my page, and there should be about 60 of them, if not more. Yeah, I've done quite a few. Eric R is in the building. What's good with you, Eric R? He says, I remember the one-armed boxer, not the one-armed swordsman. The one-armed swordsman came first, Eric R. The original one-armed swordsman by Jimmy Wong Yu from 1967. And it was followed up by Return of the One-Armed Swordsman. And Jimmy Wong Yu made a ton of money for Shaw Brothers. It was made in 1967 also. So there were a lot of action films coming out of Shaw's. Now this new One-Armed Swordsman, made and released in February of 1971, this film brought in 1.6 million, and that's a lot for Hong Kong. And it sold 564,000 tickets in France. So the Kung Fu movie phase was alive and well and kicking and slicing like hell in 1971. It came late to the US. We didn't really get on the Kung Fu movie bandwagon to like 1972, 73. And in 73, Bruce Lee passed away. So the craze really kicked up and ramped up right after Bruce Lee's death. So then they started sending tons of films over here that had already been made and made their hay over in Hong Kong. So that's just something to think about. We got Mobius Trip, who just subscribed to the channel. Thank you for your subscription, Mobius. Welcome to Stormy B Man's family here. Picasso says, in my opinion, Stormy, the Asian languages or literature is what we find in these caves and try to understand it. The scripture carved into the rock. No offense to Asian literature. Picasso, I don't know what you're talking about, bruh. I'm talking about the new One-Armed Swordsman and have talked about the original 2 films that preceded it. The One-Armed Swordsman and Return of the One-Armed Swordsman. So what are you talking about caves and literature and everything? Huh? Now, if Stormy was talking about literature, you'd be talking about I saw a good Asian Kung Fu film. Focus up, dude. Focus up. Huh? What the hell? There's always got to be one, huh? There's always got to be one. Huh? I just, sometimes I think about it and I realize, the more I think about it, the more I shouldn't think about it. But here you come. And even in that, it's like, yeah. Anyway, where was I? You see how I get thrown off because somebody come in here and want to take their shoes off in the room, and they now got the room smelling like corn chips, huh? Yeah. Anyway, back to what I was saying about the new One-Armed Swordsman. In France in 1973, when it was released and sold those 500, almost 600,000 tickets, it was the year's 64th highest grossing film in France. And we're talking about a Kung Fu film, huh? A sword play, wuxia film. That is unheard of at that time. That's the early 70s, people. The early 70s. Now, a key plot element in this film, notice I said that when they murdered Tai Lung's character, he was a two-sword swordsman. And he told Ku Feng, he said, I could defeat you if I had 3 swords. And Ku Feng was like, but do you not only have 2 arms? He's like, how can you defeat me with 3 swords? Well, one great plot device in this film shows that David Chang, the one-armed swordsman who cut his arm off in battle against Ku Feng's character, happens to be a great juggler. Yeah. A great juggler. Yeah. So, when he hears of the gruesome death of his comrade, Lei Li decides to take up the sword again to avenge his friend Tai Lung. And the last 20 minutes of this film is him going on a spree of vengeance to avenge Tai Lung's character. And the way that they kill Tai Lung in this film is one of the most gruesome murders that I've seen. In fact, David Chang in the heroic ones dies a similar death. Chang Che used to think of these death scenes, man. I don't know what was on that man's mind. But even for the time that these films were made, to see someone murdered like that, dude, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, but the movie is excellent. You got to check it out, man. This film does not disappoint. I'm talking about, it's one of the ones that I can watch almost at any time. I had it on before I went live on my little monitor here, and I was just enjoying it. Very interesting film. Very interesting. Yeah. But the Shaw Brothers films were always great, man. They were always great. Shaw Brothers had a way with their exquisite set designs. They had movie houses outside, like they, you know, they had film lots where they had little buildings and stuff built, and they could film there. Run Shaw bought acres of land in the 50s, in the mid 50s, and had his studio built on that landmass that overlooks Hong Kong Harbor. And it's awesome, man. It's awesome. Willie Lowe, you could probably find this film maybe like on Amazon Prime or something like that. If it's on YouTube, you may have to pay for it, you know, like, you know, pay for the view or something of it. It's owned by Celestial Pictures now, so that's one of the things that they've done with the Shaw Brothers library. They've remastered the films, and you know, you can, but see, I collect martial art films, so I like physical media. I have so many on DVD, quite a few on Blu-ray, and that's kind of my thing. It's the new One-Armed Swordsman, Willie Lowe, the new, because you got the original One-Armed Swordsman, that's just the One-Armed Swordsman. You got the return of the One-Armed Swordsman, and then the third film is the new One-Armed Swordsman. But there's also a title called the One-Armed Swordsman, which has Jimmy Wang Yu and David Chang reprising their roles in the film, where they face off against each other in that film. Yeah, it's great, man. It is, you know, but yeah, this is the new One-Armed Swordsman, and it's really great. It's really great. Picasso, I see that you can't help yourself this evening, man. You're coming in here trying to be a disruptive element, and I'm gonna tell you something. I will kid around and joke at times, but I'll get serious, bro, and you're not gonna like me when I get serious. Okay? Don't be trying to take my show in a different direction, man. Before you came in here, I've been talking about this film and talking about the actors, directors, and the players of this film, and I've been focused in on that. Now you've come in here, you started writing some things in the chat that are a bit distracting. Pull back, bro. Pull back. I'm not asking. If you can't contribute to the conversation, Hold your horses. David Chang had a nickname when he played a stuntman's role in the Actors Guild of Hong Kong. He was instantly moved up to more than a stuntman because he came from a family of actors. He has a younger brother that acted, and that's Derek Yee, who looks a lot like David, but just had a different way of handling himself. He played in more wuxia epics than kung fu films, but David Chang played his role of kung fu often paired up with Tai Lung. What's the question, Picasso? Mr. Shelton, what's good with you, bro? Picasso, what does that have to do with the new one-armed swordsman? Ron Hall, exactly. The movies by Shaw Studio at that time, it was like their peak, their heyday. They could do almost no wrong with their productions at the time. And you're right, it was as if you were transported to another world. I found out that when Michael Jackson had went on his own, when he became a solo artist and he left his brothers, he had gone to Shaw Brothers studio to visit, and he asked them to dress him in some of their costumes and robes and stuff, and he took photos there. You know, he was one of the biggest stars in the world, so of course they welcomed him with open arms. And there are some photos out there, maybe even on the internet. I haven't tried to Google them, but I do recall seeing them like in the early 80s that Michael Jackson had visited the Shaw Studios. So he, you know, he was a big fan of those films. And so were a couple of his brothers. They love Kung Fu films as well. So yeah, that's what's up. Village Brother says, you got me real interested in watching this film now, Stormy. Hey, it's a great film to watch, man. Most of the films that I review on Kung Fu Film Focus are worthy of at least one viewing. You may be hooked, but I'm telling you, if you check it out at least one time, you'll see that I do not recommend bad fare. I do not. I would not waste my time, so why would I try to waste yours? Yeah. Yeah, so if you guys, for those of you out there who have not seen this film, I highly recommend it. Highly. Costumes are great. Effects are great for the time. And again, like I said, it's Shaw Brothers, man. Can't go wrong with the Shaws. And as I said, the film is also known as Triple Irons. And Triple Irons is a title that it's appropriate because of the weapon that Ku Feng uses in the film. But he's not in the film a lot, but he's a main protagonist in the film. So, and he exists for the whole purpose of Lei Li's revenge or avenging nature. But New One-Armed Swordsman is definitely a film to check out. You see that graphic image there of him cutting his right arm off? Man. Crazy, bro. Crazy. The Village Brother, have you ever heard of me talking about Zatoichi? Have you ever heard me talking about Hanzo the Razor? Have you heard me talk about Ogami Ito? That's because I have spoken of those characters on this channel. You got to be around to see what's going down. You feel me? And because I haven't spotlit a lot of the Japanese fare, doesn't mean that I'm not aware of it. A lot of the Japanese artists crossed over into Hong Kong films and vice versa. But yeah, I'm definitely aware and have seen and enjoy. The one thing about the Japanese films, their fight scenes are very short, you know, because the sword play, you know, a couple of charges and slights, and the fight is over. But I'll tell you one Japanese film that is one of the most awesome that I've ever seen, and that is The 13 Assassins. Came out in the late 2000s there. Excellent film. The last 45 minutes of that movie is all action. The last 45 minutes of that film is all action. Yes, Willie Lowe, I hope you enjoy it, bro. In fact, if you enjoy Kung Fu films, you will enjoy that. I almost guarantee you. Watch it from end to end. Now, Village Brother, I talked about doing a review of Hanzo the Razor. I think I did a Zatoichi film, but I know I did Shogun Assassin and one of the Baby Cart films. I just haven't made my way through that library yet. But I also got to get to some of my Toshido Mifune films, like Sanjiro. You know, I want to talk about those films, The Hidden Fortress. All of those kind of films, I mean, are a part of this show. But again, I try to bring out the most simple affair, and it's hard to get these people to come and support that. So it's like, you know what I mean? I could have done far more Kung Fu film focuses than I've done, but people don't have a tendency. You got to be a real geek for the films like I am to even enjoy it to this degree, because there's just so many people that don't partake, and that's their loss, not mine, because I can go and shut this down and go and sit up and watch some of the greatest films that were made of this genre in my library. You know what I mean? So, but yeah. But yeah, I'm going to get ready to get on up out of here, people. It's been a great show. I appreciate everybody that came through, the super chats. I really appreciate you guys who showed some love this evening. Thank you so much for that. I do try to work at putting these shows together for you. So, you know, Stormy has nothing but love for you on that. But we're going to get on up out of here, man. Peace to everybody out there. Enjoy your evening. We got the Friday night chop session coming up tomorrow night, and we will be back at that time. So peace. Willie Lowe, check that film out. I'm certain you'll enjoy it. I may go and watch it again before I go to bed. I like it just that much. Peace to you guys. Shout out to the mighty LDBC, and I'm up.